If you are not in franchising and you're listening to this and you're like wanting to know what this is all about, step into it for an hour a day, a week, and you'll feel the love that this industry gives. It's so open and giving and willing to share, because we all want to see, like you said, whether you're an owner, you're a supplier, you're just supporting in some capacity in the industry. Everyone wants to lift you up and lift others up and want to see you succeed.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Fran Coach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of Fran Coach and your podcast host. The month of March is Women's History Month, and for the second straight year, we are super proud and honored to be able to share some stories. Our guests are women in franchising. This one is a very tenured and seasoned veteran in the franchising industry with a fantastic story. Tons of positive energy just kind of oozing through this one. And really has taken not just an important role in where she works, but in the industry in general. So excited to chat with this guest. First, a quick reminder of who we are. Fran Coach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals like yourself who might be interested in franchise ownership. Number one goal is to help properly educate you on franchise ownership to help you determine if you should own one. If not, no worries. If so, we're going to help you figure out what is your absolute best franchise to own. Now that's enough of that stuff. Let's get to our guest, shall we? All right, we are back now with our guest, and again, just super excited the month of March to spotlight some of the absolute amazing superstar, rock star women in franchising, and this one is definitely fits the bill. Joining us today is the Vice President of Marketing for Franchise Development for Home Franchise Concepts. If that wasn't a mouthful, this is Marci Kleinsasser. Marci, how are you?
I'm great, Tim. Thanks for having me and saying that mouthful today. Appreciate being here.
No, absolutely. We've got a bunch of things we want to chat with you about, and certainly want to learn a little bit more about home franchise concepts. But this is mostly like the heck with home franchise concept. That spotlight's right on you. So tell us a little bit about kind of you've been in franchising a while. You know, this is a people industry. I always like getting to know stories. So tell us a little bit about your story and kind of even how you got into this crazy world of franchising.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. It's a bit of a funny kind of family story. So I didn't know it at the time, but my dad was a franchise owner. Back when I was just coming out of high school, heading into college, my sister and I worked the counter of his medicine shop franchise. And at the time, of course, you know, you're teenagers going into college. It certainly wasn't where we wanted to spend our time, but we were helping out dad, you know, selling vitamins behind the counter, stocking shelves. And we're like, oh, you know, but dad was starting his franchise. He was working for the man many years, 30 years in business at the time, you know, a pharmacist, and he just wanted to own his own, go into franchising. He'd owned his own business, sold that, worked for Eckerd Drugs and all of these other drugstores for many years. And again, I knew this after the fact. During the time, I was like, oh, you know, I want to go hang out with friends, but, you know, got to help dad after school or before I was heading to class as I was heading into college. So that happened. Unfortunately, my dad passed too young, a couple of years into owning the business. And my stepmom at the time sold the business. I went on to work in an ad agency. And at the ad agency, one of my biggest clients actually was a small little franchise you may have heard of called Burger King. So worked the counter for my dad. Again, didn't realize at the time the business model per se. Went to work in advertising and got a little bit of a taste for what it was like working for servicing my client. You know, starting out in account services. Always worked with brands, different brands, travel, restaurants. And then I had an opportunity to jump to the client side for another small brand called Domino's Pizza. So kind of fast track, first half of career, I worked in the restaurant side of the business on both client and agency side, swapped a couple times. Client side agency, went back to client side for Benihana restaurants. and then a brand that was kind of emerging at the time. And I'm aging myself here for anyone who's ever heard of Kenny Rogers Roasters. Do you ever hear of that brand, Tim?
Yes.
Remember that brand?
Yes.
So I was really fortunate working with that brand because I got a taste of what it's like to work, no pun intended there, to work with a celebrity, an emerging brand, and really get into the thick of it with developing new products in a test kitchen that we had. And so it's really all was just a case study in what to do with franchising and what not to do. That brand, I started at 30 restaurants. We grew it internationally to 350. And it's kind of like you can hear the rest of the story because the moral of that brand, which it's no longer around. So I should have written a book at the time, but like I said, unfortunately, it's no longer around. So that was kind of my story on how I got into franchising. Part of the family, didn't really know it at the time, and then kind of followed into what became kind of a passion, helping franchisees grow locally. I was in charge of marketing in different aspects, client side, agency side. And then kind of my career just took off from there. I had an opportunity to join a service brand, which was Coverall. And at the time, it was just an interesting model because it was fostered around master franchises that sold local franchisees. We had 9,000 individual franchise owners around the globe,
Right.
But we were supported by 90, or they were supported rather by 90 regional master owners. And I got to work with those 90 master owners and just helping them on both the consumer and the franchise development side. And that was really my first taste into the development marketing side. Before I was really focused on the consumer activating brands, helping franchisees, so certainly putting their playbooks together. But at Coverall, it really was the opportunity to really understand the franchise development side. And that was my first introduction to the International Franchise Association, getting involved with how they supported franchisees and franchise development and helping franchisors grow their business.
And so, which is super cool. And so now you've been with Home Franchise Concepts for almost 3 years, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it'll be 3 years in August. And this was really the first time I was focused in marketing for the development side of the business. I always tell the story. I went from developing one baby for 10 years and now I have 10 babies to help grow. So yeah. And I love them all equally.
So I don't think I wasn't going to ask that, which is your favorite. So we actually had somebody on our Franchising 360 show not too long ago, and we'd ask him somebody had his 3 kids and just kind of like randomly, like, which one's your favorite? And he named one of the kids.
Yeah, I can't do that for my 2 kids. I love them definitely equally, but they're very unique and different. But same thing with our brands. We have 10 unique and fantastic brands, but they all have they're all challenges and opportunities. But in terms of growing them, it's unique and challenging and exciting every day. And they all, like I said, have their opportunities. And just like the franchisees that are part of those systems, they're all unique and joined those brands for, a unique reason. And that's how we create their marketing plans to grow them uniquely. So, but they all have something that's unique for our platform brand as well at Home Franchise Concepts, because we want to grow owners so that they can be successful in not only achieving their financial freedom, but also being, they're able to give back to their communities and foster that caringness and support of their local communities. And that's what we help foster here at Home Franchise Concepts. Yeah.
So I want to come back to Home Franchise Concepts here in a second, but you spent a lot of time, on the marketing side now, a little bit more from a development perspective, but a lot of that has been helping franchise owners, like what marketing plans, how do they, important thing, get customers, right? When you own, when you own a business.
Absolutely.
But marketing for a lot of people, that's like a scary, like 4-letter word almost, like, because if you haven't really done it, you don't necessarily even realize how you're getting sold as a consumer on things, or how you can be influenced. Talk about maybe just kind of some things that you've seen in the past, or ways franchises really kind of ease that concern of owner coming in. Oh, I've got all this great experience, but I don't know how to spell SEO, let alone know what it stands for, how to do it.
Yeah.
talk about how franchises can help with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty much all the same in all of your, all of the systems that I've been a part of. Franchisees need to feel confident that their franchisor has a proven playbook. And most every franchise that I've been a part of, and certainly true for our home franchise concepts brands, we provide our franchisees with that proven playbook. And it may vary slightly depending on the brand in terms of how that playbook's executed. Typically, all of them have a way to make sure that their local websites are ranked high in SEO, as you said, for search engine optimization and how that's done for them, whether we recommend our vendor partners or whether that's something that the franchisee is asked to do themselves. Typically not, because we want them to execute a customer experience so that they're managing their business and they're focusing on certain things. But again, depending on the brand, they're given that proven playbook, and we want to make sure that they can execute it with ease. We want typically any franchisor wants a local business owner to spend a certain number of hours on marketing because they wear so many hats. They have to worry about the finances and the recruiting of their technicians or their employees. They have to, they have to do so many things in their business. Marketing needs to be an integral part of that, but we don't want them sitting there 40 hours a week like the rest of the marketers, 50 or 60 hours a week typically, and worrying about marketing. They have to make sure that they're executing that brand experience locally and ultimately growing their business. They need to make sure that they have a profitable, sustainable, growing business, and marketing is a piece of that. So it has to be very turnkey.
Yeah, love it. With back to home franchise concepts, there are 10 brands, correct?
Correct.
Can you name them?
I can name them, but I should have it memorized, but I'm going to go in alphabetical order. From the back of my business card to be totally
right here.
real.
I'm checking you.
There you go. Oh, yeah. You ready with me? We have Advanta Clean, Aussie Petmobile, Bath Tune-Up, Budget Blinds, Concrete Craft, Kitchen Tune-Up, Lightspeed Restoration, Premier Garage, The Taylor Closet, and Two Maids.
Great job.
In alphabetical order.
Alphabetically
repeat
by
that
height.
Back to me?
So perfect. Yeah, I'll repeat it backwards because I'm staring at it right here on the website.
There you go.
So most of those are home service, right? Related. Even Aussie Pet Mobile is like it's still kind of home service because you're going to the home we're just taking care of the pet, right? From that standpoint.
Correct. They're all home service. And we like to say our Aussie Pet Mobile brand comes to your home and services your pet, which is part of your family. So it's all home services.
Yes. And if it's my family, the pet is the favorite by far. And
by far.
Yes.
My family too.
Yes. So Sir Henry is at the top of the food chain with my wife. And then me and her two kids battle out for like 5th or 6th place. There's a really big gap in there. So Henry always wins, and I think I don't think that's uncommon for that. So having that kind of catered service is really cool. You mentioned a term that you and I understand, but people out there may not even caught it. But there's a difference between a parent company and a platform company.
Yes.
What the heck, Marci, is a platform company?
There you go. So, I mean, you may have heard it referred to as other terms, but Home Franchise Concepts is a company that rolls up all of the 10 brands that I just mentioned. And we provide support to not only the associates that are supporting the franchisees, but for these franchisees. So in our company, we have 2 different kind of business units, our shared services teams and then our brand teams. The brand teams are directly supporting the teams for these 10 brands that are supporting the franchisees. What do the franchisees need on a moment by moment, daily, monthly, quarterly basis? So direct point of contact. And then we have the shared services teams like marketing, finance, et cetera, that are supporting the brand teams as well as the franchisees. So franchise development in our organization is considered a shared services team because we support all of our 10 brands to make sure that they are growing and achieving the goals that we need to make sure that over the short and long term, all 10 brands are, competitive in the marketplace. Same thing with our consumer marketing team. We have a shared services division that work hand in hand with the brand teams. As an example, Home Franchise Concepts is actually, we do have a parent company. We are owned by a privately held company. Many platform companies are owned by private equity. So that's kind of the difference between a platform brand, Home Franchise Concepts, and an ownership group that could be private equity or privately owned.
Yeah. And so most of your brands have a like, or certainly not in the emerging category, right? But they're not, 25,000 locations around the world either. So you've got strong individual brands, but then you have the support of a brand, basically with home franchise concepts. Get like 1,000 locations, right? So you've got massive amounts of support internally, yet there is always somebody specifically focused on your specific brand. So you get a really nice combination with home franchise concepts with that, correct?
Correct. Yes. And we have a varying size brands. Our legacy or our founding brand is Budget Blinds with over 1,500 franchise owners. And we actually do have an emerging brand we launched internally. We incubated the brand, the concept, and we launched Lightspeed Restoration a little over a year ago. And we now have over 40 locations. That's kind of the sister brand to Advaniclean. So one is light industrial restoration and one is full service 24/7 restoration, which is Lightspeed that we launched internally. So we're really excited about both of those. We support those through the same fantastic training and support services that I mentioned. And we also train at our 30,000 square foot experience center that's in Dallas. We have a home office in Dallas as well as this experience center. And in the back of our experience center, we have a full service flood house. So one of 25, only 25 in the country that are certified flood house that we do all of our certification and trainings for our restoration brand. So super proud of that as well.
Yeah. I like there's, I've talked to one of the other places that has that. And when you, with you guys too, I'm like, that sounds so cool to be able to go see. So
it is. It's really cool. If you're ever in Dallas, happy to tour you and show you around. It is really cool. When I joined the company and I walked into our experience center, it's really hard to visualize when you walk in, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But the flood house itself is a ton of fun. Like we've done open houses for our consultant groups and had them kind of flood it down a little bit and then kind of soak up the water with some of the equipment. It is a ton of fun, but it's really valuable for our new franchisees that come through, and then throughout the year to send their technicians to training. It's a lot of fun, but it's super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey folks, would you be interested in owning a franchise that has been cooking up something special since 1941? A brand with nearly 1,000 locations around the globe, yet still tons of opportunity for expansion. A brand that, despite its size and age, is still a family-run business with strong values. If so, I got one for you. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. Dickey's is a fast casual franchise that is different from everyone else in that space, as it is less about fast or casual and more about amazing food and a great customer experience. With a smaller footprint and easier build out than most food concepts, Dickey's has an affordable investment, so it is a fantastic option for someone who loves great food, wants a business with a family feel, a well-known name brand, and tons of support. If this sounds like what you've been looking for, then go to dickeys.com to learn more and get cooking on your better tomorrow. One other thing that's really valuable is that people sometimes have mentors along the way. And you've been in franchising for a couple minutes. And I know you're in that role in a couple different fashions. One we'll talk about in a moment, but was there anybody in your journey? Because when you first started in franchising, this is still like, might be a little bit fair to say a male dominated industry. Women are slowly kind of rolling in there and starting to kick everybody's ass. But when you started, maybe not so much. Was there anybody along the way that really kind of helped you grow and kind of guide you into the person you are today?
Well, yeah. Thank you for asking. I mean, I've had so many mentors along the way that I admire. I'll share a few with you. My first, the president of the ad agency that I told you about early in my career that I went to, it was BBDO South in Miami. Nina Cohen was the president, and she was the one that brought me on. And I had a couple different roles. I was her direct assistant first, and then she said, I want you to take on kind of an assistant account executive role on the Burger King account. And I just remember kind of just watching her kind of maneuver through like client meetings. And she was an amazing woman. She just taught me so much in my role, but just gave me some great advice early on. And just to like that attitude was everything. And certainly like I was there to learn, but just to kind of watch how you interacted with clients, and that skill was one thing, but attitude was going to get you so much further than skill. And that just like stuck with me throughout, like company changes and working with different teams, because you don't get through your roles, your projects, your life, if you will, like on your own. Yes, you're responsible for your input and your contributions, but that teamwork it's so important, and how you approach, working with others. Like, again, attitude is everything. And you've probably like heard the cliches, like hire for attitude, you can train for skill. Right. So that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
So that was one mentor, and her words of wisdom have, it's always kind of in the back of my mind as I've progressed through my career. Another strong female advocate that I've had through the way, her name was Janet, and I'll leave her last name doesn't matter per se, but I remember working with Janet. She was a really strong role model when I was at PuraClean. PuraClean was one of the systems I worked with, and actually she was a franchise owner. And I had started a group called the Pura Women's Growth Group. We had growth groups, and I was the one that helped launch this growth group. And she just was like really thankful that we put this group together. And I just remember her coming to me and saying, you've really helped kind of bring this group together, and we appreciate you. And I've been a part of groups before, but this has really had an impact in my business. And she just really helped to give that input, like working with advisory groups before. She was very instrumental in helping to like guide me through like working, not creating the group, but also kind of keeping the group alive and in that like advisory capacity. So she was had a big impact on me.
Yeah. And has that helped you now, because they're within the IFA, which is, for those that may not know, the International Franchise Association. There's huge, like not everybody in franchising is part of it, but I think feels like pretty much everybody. You're involved in a couple things there, kind of leading now almost in that kind of maybe mentor role, with women, in particular, but also some other things. So talk about what you're doing there.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm honored to be a member of the Women's Franchise Committee. I've been on the committee now. I want to say I'm going into my third year or fourth year. It feels like more, but honored to be part of that committee. It's a committee, I think there's 25 of us. And right now we're actually going through, I think we have 3 open slots. And so you have to apply. It took me about 3 years to get on the committee. So anyone listening, don't be discouraged if you don't get on with your first application, because there's only 25 members. And it's a group of suppliers, franchisees, and franchisors. So we bring in members of kind of all areas of franchising. But it is a group that really is promoting and supporting development, growth, and mentoring of women in franchising. And it's been a remarkable experience. The mission of the committee continues to evolve, but it's just a fantastic group of women, and it's been just a fantastic experience for me. In addition, the IFA has continued to develop mentoring within the industry. And this year I joined the Friendship program, and I'm currently mentoring 2 remarkable franchisors who have emerging brands. And I just enjoy the experience. I love to give back all of the years that I've been in franchising, a industry that's done so much for me. And I just want to give back to others that are, growing their brand. So, it's been a great experience. I hope they're enjoying the experience as much as I am.
Well, and I know you've had a lot of fun with the Women in Franchise group that you've been doing. Is there any? I think maybe anything that's been. I'm totally putting you on a spot with this, so sorry, but
problem.
Could you something in there in those last 3 years that's been like kind of maybe an inspirational story where you've seen somebody in your group kind of maybe grow, advance, kind of come into their own a little bit that's like really might be attributed to the group?
I don't know if it's attributed to the group. I will say it's been just wonderful to like just stand arm in arm with these ladies. But one person I'll call out I just, it was great to see her become the co-chair this past year. And she's going to move in obviously then to the chair position has been Allie Krause. I just think that she's amazing. And it's been great to work side by side with her. We have 4 different task forces. Well, I think it's now 3 different task forces. And I'm fortunate to work on the annual leadership conference task force. It's the group that puts on the annual leadership conference, which is pre the IFA convention. And Allie's been co-leading and then leading that conference as the co-chair of the committee. And she's just so fun to work with. She inspires so many people. And obviously working with our chair, which is Larissa Walega, who I admire for years. And it's just been so great to work with. So this year, we just allowed is not really the right word. We gave opportunity to so many more of our task force to be on stage with our programming. I had the good fortune of being the moderator of our Leaders on the Spot program, and 3 others of our members got to interview fantastic leaders. So we kind of changed the format. And then another of our members led our case study. So I don't know, Tim, if you've ever attended the annual leadership conference before. But again, we work like we're about to just kick off planning for 2026. It literally takes us about 11 months to put the content together and create that conference every year. But again, the ladies on that task force, not that the other 2 task forces don't work just as hard. It's the group that supports the women's franchise networks around the country. And there's about 20 to 25 of those. And then our podcast task force, we create a podcast for women in franchising. So those are the 3 task forces of our committee. But again, just giving these 25 ladies opportunities to put out amazing content and be part of all of these areas, these tentacles within franchising to support women. It's all volunteer work that we do, right? We do this in addition to what we're doing kind of on our during our day jobs.
Yeah. And I think and we had actually Allie on last year in March for kind of the same thing. The couple of people you surprised. You mentioned, and then with my wife Danielle being involved in some of these things too, it's like there's so much positivity. Like we all have things we could complain and bitch about, right? It's like, but that doesn't really necessarily get us anywhere. I always love the positivity that comes from, and you can just kind of, if you're not physically seeing this, you probably can hear the smile on Marci's face as she's talking about the difference in the things that are being done, and there we definitely need more of that positivity and things like that. So great job with what you are doing with that. Please keep going, because I know it's making a huge difference in the industry. Maybe a little bits at a time, but that all adds up. So thank you so much for what you're doing in those groups within the IFA, and I think I think the couple of things that I've been at the IFA a handful of times. Danielle and I went to the advocacy summit last year in DC, which was it was the first time either of us had been, and it's a whole different side of franchising. It was amazingly cool. I mean, going to the Capitol building was super cool, but but I'm like, I feel like we got to find a way to get more people in franchising and franchise owners in particular involved in those things. And I know you're actively working on that to just be involved, be around other talented, smart people, and be able to learn from one another. Because it's easy to, in the post-COVID world, get isolated, right? Like your home franchise concepts headquarters in Irvine, California is nowhere near where you live, right? And so we're remote and we can get on islands sometimes. So having those type of groups is a fantastic way to bring people together and be able to learn. So that's very cool.
Yeah, I will just say it's the Women's Franchise Committee definitely is involved in advocacy. We're always in person at the Advocacy Summit, and we work in all areas to support the IFA cross-functionally with other committees. But I agree with you. It's definitely, it's an avenue to get involved, but we all have to step up on our own to do that. Whether you're on a committee or you want to be on a committee, I highly encourage anyone listening to
Right.
find your voice in whatever way you feel that you can get involved and spend the time doing that. If you have a love and are part of franchising, it's really important. And I know we're encouraging at Home Franchise Concepts, trying to encourage our franchisees to take a part and be part of that advocacy. I know last year at the Advocacy Summit, we all made a pledge and a commitment to bring more franchisees, our franchisees within our own systems, to double the room at this year's Advocacy Summit. And it's so important because, we need everyone to understand that we have to protect the model in which we know and love.
Yes.
So I appreciate that you and Danielle were there, and we definitely want more people there next year.
Yeah, no,
or
absolutely.
this year, 2025.
And so this may be an obscure, like, kind of analogy or reference, but the Broadway show Hamilton, I don't know,
Love it.
I don't know if, right. So as do we, even like I've corrupted my son into where I think he can recite more of it. But there's one of the things where it's like, in the songs and the scenes is like, be in the room where it happens, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
like I can do the whole song and dance, but I'll spare you on that. But it really is.
That would be fun.
If you no, let me turn the video off and then I'll do it. But if you're not going to take the time to be in the room where it's happening, like, you don't get to bitch, right? So
Turn
show
it
up,
off.
show up, learn, find ways to be positive about things. So
Absolutely.
So no, totally. So and I think one of the other things I think on this podcast and even our Franchising 360 TV show, we focus on franchise owners and we focus on the brands themselves of like, hey, here's all the great things about this brand, blah, blah, blah. But there are so many, you're a great example of, so many other things that you can do in this industry. You don't have to be an owner, right? You don't have to be some salesperson. And especially when you think from a marketing standpoint, all the different pieces operationally. It's a good friend of mine from high school. I just got him connected last year to a brand because he's got 30 some years of industry knowledge in one particular niche. Well, they needed a business coach, right? And so now all of a sudden, like, I suckered him into being in this industry as well. He's not an owner. He's not a salesperson. He's literally there to help people. So there's all of these other potential avenues for people to get into. Usually, like you and like me, it's kind of accidentally how we get there. But you don't necessarily have to be an owner to be involved in franchising and have this amazing career. And you are very definitely proof of that. So I love being able to kind of share that. So thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, for sure.
Any advice you would give somebody, and again, just like thinking about franchising, maybe it's again, one of our, I think we have 8 listeners and it skews, 3 female and 5 male. So of those 3 women that are out there listening, any advice that you like to share to somebody about thinking about just kind of getting into this industry?
First of all, this industry is so giving, like it so different than, I spent a couple of stints, if you will, outside of franchising. It always sucked me back in. But early in my career, I was outside of it, in kind of in a brand partnership role. I will tell you that if you are not in franchising and you're listening to this and you're like wanting to know what this is all about, step into it for an hour a day, a week, and you'll feel the love that this industry gives. It's so open and giving and willing to share, because we all want to see, like you said, whether you're an owner, you're a supplier, you're just supporting in some capacity in the industry. Everyone wants to lift you up and lift others up and want to see you succeed. While there's really no, quote, secret sauce, whether it's a recipe in the restaurant industry that I, knew and loved for so many years, to even in home services, a proprietary playbook on, how we're executing even in marketing. Yes, there's a little bit of that, but beyond that, what we aren't willing to share or can't share, there's so much sharing going on because we do want to lift others up, see them succeed, and learn from each other. I mean, I'm part of mastermind groups and roundtables, and that's the best part of my day, sharing, answering others' questions. I have questions for others. And when I see someone succeed and they're excited about their success, I'm excited for them and their success. So I think that's what's so unique that I don't see in other industries. When I do share with people what I love about franchising, and they're like, wow, I don't have that in my industry or in my job or in my role. I'm sad for them. I'm like, I'm sorry that you don't have that or can't feel that or can't experience what I have or am experiencing in this industry or in my role or in my company or with my brands. And I'll just end with, I have had such uplifting and rewarding conversations and have built relationships with the franchisees in every brand. I'm still friends with franchisees and brands that are in my past. I just came off of our international conference where I met franchisees for the first time, or I met franchisees that I've, known just virtually, and my cup is full. And I need to do that again to fill my cup again. Like building those relationships with franchisees just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's a great point because this is, I think of other industries I've been in prior to franchising, and there's not the talk of the industry necessarily. It's like my company, my team, me,
Yes.
like I need to win. We need to win.
It's not
the
that
hell
way.
with everybody
Yes.
else. And, people, there tends to be some more movement, I think, in franchising, just, but there's it's not like the negative movement. It's just the excitement. Like, that was cool. What else can I do? What can I do? And maybe it's different brands. It's different roles within the brands. It's owner, and then I'm doing the work, or I'm on this side or whatever. But it really, like, people talk about it as an industry. And that is a fantastic point. I've never really thought of it that way. And you said it, and I'm like, oh, wow, you're 100% accurate with that. Maybe there's another industry that is all about the industry and not about the individual players within that, but that is very true. And I always think it's about the people, and that makes total sense. So that's the point of the year right there, Marci. So I love it.
Well, I don't, that's just how I feel. And it's just what I know it. Yeah, I know it to be true because, like I said, there was one year where I was had this, I'll call it my gap year, where I was outside of franchising. And the whole time I was like, what did I do? I have to get back into it. So
yeah. Well, glad you did. And I greatly appreciate you spending, I know how busy you are, spending some time with us today and talking about your story and your journey and the love of franchising. So thank you so much for joining us today.
So enjoyed it, Tim. Thanks again for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks again to Marci Kleinsasser, Vice President of Marketing for Franchise Development for Home Franchise Concepts. That's what her title is, but she's here because, again, we're celebrating some of the really amazing people in franchising, kind of women in franchising for the month of March. So thanks so much to Marci for joining us. And again, I just love the positive energy that is coming. And really, I just, her comment about everybody in franchising focused on a singular industry, no matter what your kind of role or title is, was a fantastic point and incredibly accurate. And I don't know, like, somebody knows an industry that also does that as well, message it to me and we'll give them a little love on the next one. But do quick reminder, every Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV is the Franchising 360 show. I might be biased, but also one of the most amazing women in franchising co-hosting with me, Danielle Wright. And I'm not only saying that because we're married and that makes my life better, but it's also true. Next week on the podcast, we have a new awesome woman in franchising that I'm super excited to share her story as well. If you would like to learn more about becoming a franchise owner, please reach out to us, francoach.net. That's where you're going to find me and all of our team. We're here to help you, never any fee for our service. So if you're thinking about this, wondering if this is the path, let's help you figure that out. And if so, we'll help you find the best brand out there and help you create your better tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.